certain you remember nothing of this place.
Oh, nothing that would help us.
Despite the year ending, Santa Monica Studios hit us with an incredible piece of DLC for the low price of nothing. Now, while I got all the trophies, despite my hardest, I couldn't find all the cosmetics in the DLC, but with the time allotted, I decided to go through with the review. Hopefully that's okay, so technically it's 100% not, kind of. So this review will of course contain spoilers, seeing that this DLC does take place after the events of the core campaign, and I will touch on a few details in the core game. God of War Ragnarok Valhalla takes place after the events of the main campaign. The lands are beginning to heal as Freya takes charge of all of Odin's responsibilities, but not all is well. Kratos has gone back to his solitary lifestyle and has been invited to Valhalla by a mysterious someone. Heading into the gates, Kratos doesn't make it far as all his equipment and items are reduced to the bare minimum as per Valhalla's rules. Freya and the rest of the Shield Maidens decide to help him on this quest of self-discovery, all while trying to convince Kratos to join Freya as part of her new peace council. Many of the issues I had with the core campaign are addressed here, as Valhalla picks apart at Kratos' memories, manifesting things that still haunt him. Even the key art is a reference to this, as it's a callback to God of War 2's box art. Here Kratos not only deals with the difficulties of the new games, but the original ones as well, showcasing only elements that he hasn't come to terms, such as his first family, ascending to godhood, and destroying his home Greece. Kratos isn't the only person going through this journey. Mimir also has his own journey of self-discovery. We don't see it, but the smartest man alive provides details to Kratos about what happened during his absence while in Valhalla, reliving a past life before he came to Midgard and joined Odin, along with difficulties with his relationship with Sigrid due to losing his body and being a reanimated head now. The DLC may focus on Kratos, but Mimir plays just as big of a role here. This doesn't mean everything from the original games are here. Context clues within the story also showcase that Kratos has found peace with certain manners, such as his mother and brother's death in Ghost of Sparta, Zeus, Athena, and many other things. The developers didn't just include the core trilogy, but gave some love to the underappreciated PSP games, such as Helios, who returns in a very creative way to highlight the duality Kratos had with killing the sun god. What is truly amazing is how the writers create a narrative that doesn't trample on the original games, but instead builds on them. Despite Kratos being depicted in simple ways such as revenge and bloodlust in the original games, the story highlights different perspectives of his actions. For example, his iconic deal with Ares. Yes, Kratos was on a power trip when he went on multiple rampages on Ares' behalf, but in the case of the barbarians, if Kratos never made the deal, his land, the people he was sworn to protect, would have died and gone through something horrible. This isn't just a love letter to the core games, but the franchise as a whole, allowing Kratos to come to terms with his past and how it made him to what he is today, not to reject his past actions, but to accept them no matter what they were and attempt to be better because of them. Carry those burdens and don't forget them, as they will help you to make choices in the future. Valhalla is a roguelike where Kratos starts from nothing. You'll take on 3 sets of trials that increase in difficulty and are randomized. Kratos can increase his baseline stats and increase positive odds during each run. You'll earn 2 types of currencies during each run that are used on these upgrades. As for the trials, they have a set order in how they progress, but not formed. Each one starts with 2 combat rooms and 2 sets of enemies. In the beginning, you are given an upgrade based on your combat style, but you can upgrade this to include all 3 weapon choices. What follows are 2 sets of combat challenges, each separated by a sanctuary zone based on one of the realms that includes lock barriers that have one-time unlock cosmetic items and sometimes upgrades. These barriers can be unlocked using keys purchased from outside Valhalla in a shop or in the final shop inside Valhalla. You can choose an assortment of rooms from here that are marked on the door to show what reward you will receive for beating them. Once you complete 2, you'll be faced with a Chosen of Valhalla, a powerful enemy from a pool of the existing enemy pool, then continue to the boss arena. You can increase the speed of progress by immediately heading to the Chosen room, but this is only available later on in the DLC. The boss includes a mini-boss from Kratos' past, and the developers even went further to include new codex entries where Kratos makes note of remembering fighting them in his original encounter. The exception is 2 new boss fights based on Magni and Modi, redesigned with Kratos alone, and new attack patterns. The next step of challenges is a set of memory in Greece. Here Kratos must kill at least 6 chosen of Valhalla. The catch is a timer that increases the enemy's strength with each cycle. Further on in the DLC, you can unlock challenge rooms that give you more bonuses outside the timer. If you need to stop, you can suspend your game at the stores throughout the DLC. These stores include an option to spend one-time earned currency called Fleeting Echoes on health, rage, and include an option of permanent cosmetic upgrades and hilt upgrades for your next run. The health and rage healing items are only available once per sanctuary zone, so you can't abuse it. In addition, the game increases rewards based on your difficulty that you play on, which you cannot change during a run, and will reset the entire progress if you decide to change mid-run. The final trial is against the Norse war god himself. Tyr is not to be taken lightly. Despite beating him multiple times, each fight was a challenge, and he used an array of skills and weapons from many parts of the world. The only issue I had with this fight was the mid-ad addition. I'm not a fan of adding ads to a boss fight because I think it ruins the boss fight as a whole, but regardless, Tyr is a fantastic boss fight, and I honestly think that he was still holding back despite the multiple times that I beat him. You'll have to go through these trials a lot to get every piece of dialogue, even after the 3 to 5 hour core campaign that the game requires hours of commitment to learn everything. You can cheese through these by returning to the shore outside Valhalla once you get to the Greece section. The problem is that some dialogue is glitched. If you happen to trigger a fight during dialogue, they won't continue after you finish the combat encounter. You'll have to reset in the same area where the combat was triggered and hope it'll happen again once you return to that same area. This is more likely during side quests when collecting key items, but for the Shield Maiden dialogue, not so much. There's one side story that only triggered by completing optional challenges called Labors, but for some reason after completing every single one, I couldn't get the final parts of this story, so I'm not sure why this happened. In terms of combat, the core systems of God of War are still here with brand new addition. Since this takes place in the memories of Kratos, he's able to call on the legendary Blade of Olympus. Unlike its God of War 3 version, the developers have made this version a lot more dangerous and sometimes even broken. The weapon itself is insanely powerful and can refill Kratos' rage with each kill. On top of this, Kratos is practically immune to stagger, reduces oncoming damage, can shoot beams of energy, and cancel enemy attacks when triggered. This is the best interpretation of the blade, and it shows why this is one of the most powerful weapons in the God of War universe. And of course, you will fight existing enemies from the God of War Greece universe. It's absolutely spectacular, and yes, some of the kill animations are reused. The fact that they went above and beyond to create brand new character animations for all these enemies is simply staggering. They even kept true to the kill animations from the original God of War games, such as the Siren, which sends a shockwave towards everyone. And they even have new codex entries to build on information on these different NPCs. For example, I did not know that the Cyclops was originally peaceful creatures that originally herded sheep and were just brought in to fight in combat situations during the war between the gods and the Titans. You find out that a lot of the NPCs that you faced in the original God of War universe were originally peaceful but brought into war purposes for selfish reasons by the gods and the Titans, which I thought was brilliant. The final challenge room in the Greece section does include rematches with the Berserkers, which I personally didn't like in the core campaign, and I still do not like here. I know it's a personal choice, but I preferred the fight with the Valkyries because their overall context to the narrative, and I would have preferred to see a boss based on Kratos' past, seeing that the arena is the same place where Kratos killed and fought Hercules. So it's a lot to ask for because they already provided so much content in this free piece of DLC, but I felt like this was a wasted opportunity, seeing that the social context of all of this doesn't make any sense. Why would you fight Berserkers in the same arena that you fought Hercules? It would make more sense that you fought someone that he fought in Greece. It's shocking that this DLC is free, especially after dealing with so many predatory practices in the gaming industry today, like Activision Blizzard selling DLC for $100. Yes, Modern Warfare 3 is DLC. Deal with it. Everything here is just teeming with exceptional levels of quality, and the beautiful narrative furthers the overall story. Many of the elements that made the core game amazing is still here, and the addicting roguelike elements made every new challenging run a fun and new experience. I did wish they included some way to replay dialogue or cutscenes, given how much effort is needed to get to them and trigger them again. In fact, if you want to replay everything, you start again from zero. Granted, the experience that you earn makes things a lot easier. During my first run, it took me about 5 hours to complete the core campaign, and during my second run, it only took me 3 hours because I was well more versed in how to deal with situations and how to kind of manipulate the RNG. Regardless, Santa Monica did the impossible here. They made a masterpiece even better.